Awesome. So my talk today is Bet You Won't Block Google, Evil APIs on the Rise. And like Bill mentioned, Michael Banks. I'm from Rendition InfoSec. I'm a signal officer in the Army Reserve. I'm an alumni from Augusta University, did my bachelor's here, and now I'm currently in the master's program here as well. So I always keep Augusta on my mind. So a couple disclaimers, these are my opinions, not those of any of my employers. I did not read any company I references terms of service. So if you may or may not be, depending on what you're doing, be violating those terms. And this talk is definitely not sponsored by Mr. Robot or USA Network. So I like to theme my slides. Last year I used Dr. Evil from Austin Power, so I used Mr. Robot since I'm still using the Evil theme pretty much. And the last disclaimer I'll say is this is definitely a post-exploitation talk. So it definitely assumes they are already been exploited, and now it's just about getting data out. So, let's just assume they got fish or you clicked on a link, because, as many companies frequently do. So I'm going to be flying through this since I got 30 minutes, and so we're going to be talking about APIs in general, exfiltration methods, Google APIs in particular, but it applies to many other APIs, how it can or may not be detected, some complications in finding ways to actually detect them. I'll show a quick demo, and then I'll reference some other APIs out there that are interesting and that do awesome things. So API real quick is an application programming interface. It's basically a way that you can, query information or get or put information from a website or application and basically query data on the back end of a service. So there are many out there. There are many companies that utilize them. Every day we'll hear more and more about APIs being used and different companies using APIs to do great things. So a lot of companies nowadays always say, if you use the API, people will build on it. Things will come, things will happen, magic will happen. And there's also some downsides using APIs as well, and some ways that it can be taken advantage of. So some of the common methods you would interact with APIs would be through HTTP. Similar to accessing a database, you use the CRUD method, and where you can put data there, you can get data back, you can update it, you can delete it, you can do a bunch of nice things. And that's the reason people use APIs. That way you don't have to know SQL, and that way it can make it easier to actually communicate with the data on the system. So some of the common data exfiltration methods would be through services that are already on the machine. So things like FTP, IRC, SSH, things like that. And a lot of attackers utilize these methods, and they have some advantages and some disadvantages as well. A lot of these services are already pre-installed on the system, so all they have to do is call a command or access that service and send data somewhere, and now you get data out of the system. Some of the disadvantages to using the systems already built in, and even some of the systems local on the machine is as long as a company or a person is actually logging or monitoring the network getting logs, they can see where you send data from. So if I'm exfiltrating data back to my own server and it's called evil port.evil, even though I don't even know if that's an actual TLD, but you're able to see that on those logs. You're able to see that IP address, exactly where that data went. So they're able to, one, see you took data, and then be what data you took. Sometimes in environments where there's zero trust, they might not even allow those services out. So most times, like if it's a web server, they would only open 80 and 443 for normal traffic. So you might not even have access to FTP or IRC or SSH, things like that. So that's the downside using that, but it's pretty easy to use and it's pretty common to use. Another method that attackers utilize is through basic VPS. So if I'm at my house using that, you'll see my IP. So a lot of times attackers use a VPS. That way it's not my own IP, but another IP out there. It's still attributed to you because it's still going to, a specific thing you set up through your account, even though it might not be your real name or something, it's still some trace back to you. And it's easy to see on a network where, again, if you're logging in DNS, you can actually see every request that's sent out to that server. or any file that's in that server. Advantage, it is customizable. You don't have to worry about, command and control. You can set something up yourself if you know how to. It's pretty cost efficient per se. You can get a flat rate. Something like Blue Ocean where it's like $10 a month or $5 a month. The disadvantage, like I said, it's easy to detect. It takes some setup time because you get a blank slate. You gotta set up your services or whatever you want to utilize, and sometimes, depending on your level, it does require a little bit more still to do. But again, it's still attributed back to you. So some of the things I started seeing last year and year before that were attackers utilizing file syncing software to actually exfiltrate data. So that actually has some advantages to it because a lot of those programs, they don't want to sync your data insecurely, so they want to secure that application. So if you do Dropbox, it'll securely transfer that information back and forth from an account, and it actually goes to Dropbox server. So if you're on the network level, you only see a large amount of data on the Dropbox. So it's secure. If it's not an overly secure or aware company, they might allow Dropbox out, or Google Drive out, or different applications out there. So it could be whitelisted. It could be one of those domains that they allow. It's pretty easy to use. You install it, you point and click, you log in, and it starts syncing. You just point it to where you want it to sync, and it'll sync. Some of the disadvantages, it is pretty easy to detect if you're syncing an entire hard drive. So you see, a great amount of bandwidth from Dropbox, whereas if you're doing things like heuristics, you're looking at Dropbox usage for a week, and Monday through Thursday, it only uses 10 gigs, and Friday it uses 200 gigs. That's very flat. So the other disadvantage is a lot of the programs actually have a lot of data that syncs in the background. So it actually creates a log of your activities. So the account you use to actually log in Dropbox to sync that data actually can know exactly when you logged into it, what you pointed at to sync, what it synced. It actually keeps track of all that on the actual system. So it does leave a lot of logs and a large footprint to actually see what an attacker did, what they synced, and what they took. So that's a lot of benefit because it's secure, but it does leave a large footprint. So one of the things that got me thinking, well, they have these services and they're utilizing it securely. Why not just use their architecture? So one thing I noticed with Google Drive, and now the new latest one, Backup and Sync, is it just calls Google APIs directly. So I was like, that's interesting. Why don't I just call those Google APIs? Because if you go on their website, they advertise APIs all the time. So they have SDKs out there that's pretty easy to communicate with. So one of the advantages of using their API directly is you still get that security that they secure their endpoints end to end, because something happened back then where the links weren't actually secured and you can't actually see the traffic. So they actually secured their endpoints end to end with their applications. So why not? Why don't I just use their API themselves directly? Now I don't have to worry about that log being created on the application. And it's pretty easy to use because there's a lot of templates out there. There's great documentation. And on the network layer, all you see is Google API. That's at Google.com. So you don't actually see anything attributed back to me from the actual host machine. You just see a lot of communication to Google. Some of the disadvantages, it does take some time to customize the data on the things you want it to send, because you can point it at a drive, but you actually have to manually point it at the drive and call it an API. It takes knowledge about the API, so you actually have to spend some time reading the documentation to utilize it. But other than that, it's still a huge benefit of utilizing their own infrastructure, their own tunnel. And to use it, it's free. All you gotta do is sign up with your account and get an API key, and you can start utilizing that information. So there are many other data exfiltration methods. There are many other APIs out there that you can utilize, and they are freely available as well. So one of the things I was curious on, if you're a network defender, you see this traffic, would you block it? Raise your hand if you would. No one would. They will let it pass through. Reasonable. So all you see right now is basically the query, and this is nothing but a user logging into their Gmail and utilizing Gmail. It's normal behavior typically. you have secure traffic with TLS, and all you see is a bunch of calls to Google. Pretty typical traffic. Here's another. Who would block this traffic? So this is nothing but a user logging into Google Drive using the application. So the user browses to drive.google.com. You see your DNS query right there. And it also makes some other Google API calls. It could be fonts, it could just be rendering fonts, which is usually what it does on the website. It calls those free font libraries and renders them on the page. So it's easy to see from here that the user is utilizing Google Drive. Funny, the actual application makes those same calls. So whether the user is browsing or utilizing the application, it's making those same network calls. Here's another, sheets.googleapis.com. Who would block this one? So this is just user using Google Sheets in a browser. Nothing out of the ordinary. You see a lot of public calls and data coming from that source, but if you resolve them, they're actually nothing but Google API calls. So while this is a user using Google Sheets, what you don't know is this user using Google Sheets is actually exfiltrating data out of your network, because all you see is that TLS traffic and a call to Google Sheets. So, like I mentioned, Google has a lot of APIs. They're out there freely and easy to use. And one thing I was interested in is just how many APIs out there that Google provides. Anyone have a wild number of how many APIs Google has right now available to use? More than 20?
142 million.
Wow. So actually, as of today, I checked, 121 APIs that are freely available to use. What they do is they give you a certain number you can call each month. In some APIs you can utilize, as long as you don't go over the rate, you're good to go. Some, you have millions of requests you can do for your month, but most of all of them are freely and available to use. So the one I utilized and the one that I was interested in the most was Google Sheets. It's free. It's basically like Excel. It's just a large database. It's being hosted by Google in their infrastructure. So as long as Google Drive is up and running, or Google Sheets is up and running, it's available for me to use. So it has multiple language support, as you can see, from Python, Go, just, take your pick of whatever one you'd like to use. And the other thing I like, if you have a Google Drive account, if you use Google Sheets, it doesn't count against your data. So you get free 15 gigs for free. But if you use Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, the other one, Google Forms, none of that counts against that 15 gig data account. So you can store as much as you want in that Google Sheet, and it doesn't cost anything for you. The other thing is you can actually leverage other services to do different things. So, me spending time doing machine learning using, pandas and R, they actually have BigQuery and different systems out there that's already pre-built. All I gotta do is give it a Google Sheet, ID, and it'll do all the visualization for me. I just have to put it up there. So, and that's how it actually came to be that I was actually looking into Google Sheets, because I was doing logging of an actual thing, I wanted to get data to this Google Sheet. So I just utilized Google Sheets API and send it there directly. So I'm gonna do a live demo. And I'm pretty certain it should work over the internet. So all I did basically is create a log, and actually, I'll show you the log. So here's the log. This is how it started. I had a honeypot, and I was basically parsing these logs, and instead of this huge CSV that I had to throw in Excel that was almost a gig, 2 gigs of data. Instead of parsing that, I was like, I am not about to go through this, and it probably wouldn't handle it. Windows and Excel crashing because not enough RAM. It was a terrible nightmare. So I actually utilized Google Sheets to send the data to it. So that's how it started. I parsed the field, I parsed that log, and I only wanted to send the relevant fields to Google Sheets. So, and I utilize Python for it. And all I do is give it the Python file, the actual log, and one of the things I'll mention later on is how to actually protect against it is application whitelisting. So I'll allow it for the next 30 minutes. So it'll make those API calls and it'll just start logging data and it'll do it in real time. So one of the neat things with Google Sheets is you can actually see it happening as it happens. So that was a pretty neat. It finds what was written to, it finds the next empty field, and it keeps going. So that was one of the things of how it started. And I was interested. I was looking at the traffic, like it's secure, I can't see anything. I didn't even see the key that I used to send it. So I was like, what else could I actually, send through this pipe? So, Google Sheets. So it turns out, some reason I know this, but you can actually put 50,000 characters in one cell in Google Sheets. So I was like, I wonder if I can put an entire file in here. So I thought about hashing, and I was like, no, I don't want to deal with that. So I'm just going to send the whole text up here. So one of the things I made was exfil sheets. So all I'm actually doing is taking that limit of an actual file, my 50,000 limit. I pass in my API credentials, I give it a spreadsheet ID, and then I send the values I want it to send. So, name of it, there's the argument of the file I'm passing, and then just the glob of text that I send. And then I dice it up. You have the limit for Google Sheets. You can send 100 API calls per second. And actually, probably, can't even see that. So you can actually send 100 calls per second. So one of the things I started doing, so I had a file as a test, bad file.txt, nothing but Laura Empson. So I was going to see if I can send that whole file up to Google Sheets itself. So I just made a couple changes to that. The first script, and actually just pass it the file. And I let it query that for a sec. I find that, I get the check. And allow that. And then it actually writes the whole file to the actual cell, one cell of Google Sheets. Now if that file is over 50,000, I just split it up and write it to the next cell with the same information. It gives me the file name right here, so I actually know what file I wanted to send. But let's say I wanted to, going back to that heuristic things where you see, on Friday you do 200 gigs worth of data. I don't want to trip that alarm. So what you can do is instead of, once you look at that file, let's say you want, social security numbers. Write a regular expression, look for social security numbers, and just send that social security string through one API call up to Google Sheets. And now you're only sending the data you want. So you can actually parse that file, similar to how I did the log file, to the data you want. So an attacker can actually, on a network, can go through the actual host it's on, find all the data it wants. If it's Word documents and wants PDFs only, it can go through that and send those files up to Google Sheets itself. And actually, again, on the network, you see nothing different of the sort. All right, so with that, how can you protect against it? You saw my protection against it was application whitelisting. You can actually whitelist applications you want to run. Because I'm running it as a Python file, it lets you whitelist Python across your entire system, which obviously some do. That would work. In other languages, if you whitelist that application or that language, its running environment, it'll work. From the network perspective, you can actually decrypt that TLS traffic using like a proxy or data loss prevention system, something that can decrypt that traffic. Because if it's HTTP, you can actually see the data that's being transmitted. If it's HTTPS or TLS, you actually can't see the data, so you have to decrypt it. And then you can rely on Google to maybe detect it because you either know or don't know if they're actually looking at those API calls I'm sending through a free account that I created with a burner credit card that was a prepaid credit card and using that our name, but a free account. So you can rely on them to catch it, but it might or might not. But as you saw on mine, I use a program called Little Snitch. I use it for the Mac, and there are other, things on Windows as well. And actually look at the process level of what's allowed. You can actually allow different applications and programs to run. Example would be here. I can actually analyze backup and sync. They're new, and it used to be called Google Drive as well. I can actually see on a domain by domain level of what's being actually passed through that application. And since I ran it not as backup and sync that's allowed, I ran it as Python. So you saw that pop up that, do you want to allow this or not? This isn't what you normally send, even though it's still going to fullapis.com. Is this what you want to be allowed? So I had to allow or deny. So as you see with backup and sync, you see those API calls, you don't know what individual API calls are being made. And if you look in that right-hand field, there are about 58 different APIs being utilized here that's using Google API itself in that application. So actually whitelisting applications, actually where it goes, definitely would be a way to actually prevent against that. And not just looking at the domain that was contacted, but actually looking at what process contacted, what program contacted that. That would be the best way to actually mitigate something like this. As I mentioned before, decrypting the traffic, you can do that. If you decrypt the traffic, you can then see what information is actually being sent, what keys are being used. If you have a company and you're utilizing the same API key or an approved set of API keys, you can actually decrypt the traffic and look at the key, see if it's one of your keys. If not, throw up a red flag. This is not my key. Who is this? And then from that point, you can actually dive into the data, see what's actually being sent. But a lot of companies actually don't do this, and I don't blame them, because if they're decrypting your traffic, they get owned. And let's say you're checking your bank account online or paying a bill before it gets turned off, before you get off of work. Now your credentials and everything you put to check your bank account is actually sitting on a proxy server in their environment. So if they get, hacked, your information goes, they're liable for that as well because they encrypted that traffic. So that's why some people don't decrypt traffic, some still do taking that risk, because they're off the hook by putting out a use policy saying you're not supposed to check your bank account on my premises, on my computers. Why are you doing that? So that's how they get around that. But decrypting that traffic is useful because a lot of the different HTTP IDSs out there won't look at your encrypted traffic. You can't. It doesn't see it. So it just lets that go by because it didn't encrypt the signature. So actually decrypting traffic or actually whitelisting the application that did that encrypted traffic is more useful because more and more malware and programs out there are utilizing HTTPS. So you actually have to decrypt traffic or monitor the applications that use that secure connection. So I mentioned the privacy and liability that some companies do and the complications by doing that. And then some other interesting Google APIs out there, Google Slides, just like a slideshow presentation, I can actually send that data to the Google slide itself. I can send it from Gmail, I can send out an email, I can send it as an attachment to an email from an API directly. There are many APIs and many things you can access out there, and they make it freely available. Some of the other companies out there that do it, Dropbox. That huge sheet you saw at the beginning with all the companies, a lot of them use APIs. And you can communicate with them directly for free. So that's the end of my talk. Are there any questions in general? Yep.
So if you are doing some sort of SSL inspection, you can't see the traffic, how would you still protect against, what if they were like caching or obfuscating the data in some way that the DLP can't see it?
So yeah, if they're hashing or doing the data at that point, if it's a huge amount of data, you can get you have to have basically an understanding of your network. So if it's a lot of data, you can see who's doing this, what machine it comes from, is this development, that kind of thing. You guys still rely on the other tools you have. But by itself, no. You have to, re-engineer it, reverse engineer it from that point of perspective to actually see what data is actually being sent. But it's more of having an understanding of your environment, should the secretary be utilizing Google API calls to, so it's that kind of thing. You have to have an understanding of the network.
Has this been seen in the wild, or is just theoretical at this point?
So as far as I've actually seen on engagement, the actual part where they're utilizing Dropbox or different file syncing software, I have not yet seen some. I take that back. I've seen using C2, utilizing command and control from an aspect of using Google Sheets and Google Drive and different things like that. I have not seen them do the data exfiltrated that way. I've seen it used basically for command and control.
Okay.
But I wanted to do my little twist since I was already seeing the data that way. So I'm like, hey, you can do this too. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So since you're putting text in Google Sheets, have you tried you encoding it to actually see how well it works, you encoding binary files?
No, so you have to string it, and then you can actually, grab the data from the string. You couldn't actually. It'll take the text, but it'll just like, garbled, jumbled text.
I'm saying if you tried you encode it to see if that would actually work.
Just
For
basically
file transfer?
encode your file and send it.
And it'll send it as text, and then you just recreate it on the other end. Okay. Any other questions?
So if you're looking at it just from like an object perspective, right? It's like if I was a cat something or something, I can see it just get across the whole traffic. So it doesn't really.
So the point of it is utilizing Google's backbone infrastructure. If I just kind it itself, you'll see it on the network. But if it's utilizing Google API, you won't see it unless you decrypt it. And Google does a good bit of, if you decrypt their traffic, it's not going to go. So that's more the perspective, utilizing their system and infrastructure to send it securely.
Michael, we have some giveaways.
Cool.
If you have some questions you want to ask,
Sure.
or you just want to